Hey guys, welcome back to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we're back with a Vayne supplementary guide. Now, first things first, I still do believe that Vayne's best build is the Wits End, not Wits End, the Bork and Wits, Bork into Wits End kind of build. I still think that that's probably the best build of the on-hit kind of Vayne, but I want to try the crit kind of Vayne. So that's what I'm going to cover today. I'm going to talk about a little bit more about when you should go for each one, a little bit more in the gameplay, but without further ado, let's jump straight into talking about the build itself. So first up, of course, the items. So you want to start off with the Gluttonous Greaves. Now, there is a decent argument to go for your attack speed boots or Berserker's Greaves here, but personally, I think that Gluttonous Greaves is a little bit just too big of a power spike to pass up on. Like the starting AD is really strong, and of course you get Omnivamp as well, which works on true damage. So Vayne's Silver Bolt is gonna be able to heal her up as well, and that's just amazing. So then we're jumping into the actual crit build. So first up we have Immortal Shield Bolt. So Shield Bolt of course gives you AD, gives you all the good stats, attack speed, physical vamp and stuff. But of course what it mainly gives you is that lifeline shield. When you drop below 35% health, it's gonna pop a shield that's gonna basically negate a lot of damage. And with Vayne, with your very low range and the fact that you are really close to enemies, very often you take as much damage as you give, and this is basically gonna put you in a situation where the shield bolt is gonna come in very handy. And of course with Vayne you want a lot of attack speed to proc your passive. That's where the Phantom Dancer comes in. Obviously gives you a grand total of 55% attack speed when you have it fully stacked. Of course gives you a little bit of AD and movement speed as well, which is of course Vayne loves movement speed as well. And then we go into Bloodthirster, really strong item, a lot of AD, physical vamp, and a little bit of attack speed and AD when you're high on health. And finally we have the IE to of course boost your crit damage and put you to 100% crit. For your final item, you can kind of go for whatever you want. Of course, GA, the default option. More damage, you could go for like a Triforce. Into a heavy AP team, you could go for something like a Wits End or a Maw if you don't want the attack speed. Of course, you also have defensive options like Twin Guard, all of these sorts of deals. You guys know the drill. And you could also kind of like change the build order a little bit. For example, you could go for Shield Bow later and go for Bloodthirster first, or you could even go for first item Phantom Dancer, something like that. But of course, this is my preferred order, which is why I'm going through it. Although, Shield Bow is not a very huge spike in the early game, but the defensive capabilities that it gives you, I think is, kind of outweighs what you get with the other items. And of course, next we go on to the runes. So we're going to want to take Lethal Tempo here instead of going for Kraken Slayer. Now, Kraken Slayer is good, don't get me wrong, because you do get a lot of AD, especially in the later part of your build. But honestly, you don't have a lot of attack speed in this build. You get like 15% attack speed from here. Of course, here is where all of your attack speed is, the 55% attack speed. But you don't have attack speed from your last couple of items, unlike, of course, the other build with the Wits End, as well as the Bork, where you get a lot more attack speed, which is why I think in this case you do need the Lethal Tempo. Speaking of attack speed, you also go for Alacrity, and of course you go for Giant Slayer, seeing as you're generally going to play Vayne into tanks. And then of course we go for Brutal, which is going to give us more on-hit damage on our auto attacks against champions, as well as Bone Plating for the defensive capabilities, both in lane as well as in the later stages of the game, for the anti-burst against mages and stuff, and assassins as well. And finally for the spells, you want to go for Flash and you want to go for Ghost. Now remember that Exhaust is not so important on Vayne, because if you get exhausted, you're still going to do a lot of damage, because your Silver Bolts, which is your main point of damage, is true damage, which basically means they can't reduce that. Of course, your auto attack damage itself is going to be reduced, but your true damage is going to stay the same. So Ghost is overall just way more helpful, simply because you can just kite around fights and stuff, so the movement speed is a little bit more important. But with all that out of the way, let's jump into talking about our gameplay. Okay, so now straight into the gameplay. Now, as I said, I don't think this is Vayne's main build. I think it's sort of like an alternative kind of build. For her main build, you can refer to the complete guide I did on Vayne, the one I did when I was in Korea, that I think is at this point like maybe 2 to 3 weeks ago that I posted. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to be updating that guide, because I do have a spicy build in mind for Vayne, but I haven't yet tested it out, and I haven't not even tested it. Obviously, there's no video that's going to be made anytime soon, but I'm going to be testing out this Vayne build, and if it works out, I will be probably making an updated guide on Vayne. So when should you go for this kind of crit build? Well, basically, you kind of want to go Vayne, of course, when there are very tanky champions on the enemy team, but there's kind of like a variation to how tanky the champions are. Of course, you have this sort of lower end where basically this game is just like Shyvana and Blitzcrank, and they're not really that tanky. Whereas you could have a game where you have like Sion, Set, Garen, Alistar, champions like that who are actually really tanky, and those are the kind of games you want to go for. The main build, which is of course the Bork and the Wits End kind of build, because you really need that early attack speed and you really need the Bork to shred their max health. So you definitely want to go for that build in general. If you don't know what kind of build to go, that build just could be a default for every game. Here, Tristana full on commits, and we basically just punish her because she doesn't have the damage to finish off Nami. And when you want to go for this build is when you're playing against squishier teams. So here, for example, they're a little bit more squishier because obviously Tristana, Aso, Fiora, they're not that tanky, so you are able to sort of go for this kind of crit build. Now, of course, if you prefer a crit build, which is of course generally higher damage, especially when you're playing against less tanky champions, you could go for this every game. But personally, I like to of course customize my build depending on who my opponents are and the game. So I do prefer to go for that unhit kind of build majority of the time. And when I'm playing Vayne into a squishier team like this one, I can go for the crit build. But of course, that's not very often because I don't generally pick Vayne into squishy teams. This is kind of like an exception. Because even though I always say in my videos that there is an optimal time to pick a certain champion, however, for the sake of being good on a champion, you never want to only pick a champion when they are good. Because to fully understand the champion, you sort of do have to pick the champion when they're good and pick the champion when they're bad or not so good. So this is kind of what I'm doing here, which is to kind of improve and maintain my mastery on Vayne by picking her into not the most kind of optimal matchup, which is kind of why I'm picking Vayne into a squishier team. Now here I actually make a mistake and get hooked, but thankfully they're not able to actually finish the kill on me, and through the help of Nami, I'm actually able to survive, get to the plant, and recover my HP. So here Tryndamere comes in, tries to steal some of my minions, does steal a minion, gets hooked under the tower, gets knocked out by Blitzcrank, gets bursted by Tristana and dies, which is, yeah, I'm not really sure what to comment on that. Thankfully, I'm able to flash and trade the kill onto Tristana. Blitzcrank does get a decent amount of damage. Obviously, he doesn't have hook because he just used it. Here, I actually was invis for a second, so Aurelion Sol actually didn't see me for a while, and after he saw me, he comes back and does actually pick up a kill. So this is actually kind of bad because Asol, as we know, is a scaling champion, and him getting 2 kills in the early game is kind of bad because it accelerates his scaling a lot. But honestly, I think at this point, this is like, I played this game a few days into the patch, although of course I'm posting it on YouTube a little bit later. But this game was like I think it was actually on the first day of the new rank season. Yeah, this was on like the first day of the new rank season, and no one knew how to play Aurelion Sol. I'm not sure if now anyone knows how to play Aurelion Sol, but people are not good at Aurelion Sol, at least not yet. So yeah, most people can't really do that very well. Anyways, here I'm getting ganked by Shyvana. She doesn't have ult, but because of how overextended I am, I know I'm not getting out anyway, so there's no real point to run. I don't have my flash, and I'm not getting out. So the best thing I do is try to trade onto Tristana or try to get as much damage down as I can to see if my team can do anything about it. Unfortunately though, the whole enemy team kind of commits here and doesn't look like my team can do that much. Nami hits a beautiful bubble, and Blitzcrank dies to the tower, but immediately Tryndamere dies and is traded back on. Nami is now on the run, and I'm coming out of base off of my death. I pop the ult, I'm focusing the Tristana, she takes a tower shot, and I'm able to finish her off. Somehow Aurelion Sol doesn't actually hit the wall here off of the Condemn, but I'm able to finish him off anyway, and overall, it's a positive trade because in the super duper extended fight, I died and Tryndamere died, but we in turn killed their entire team except for Fiora. So overall, in the grand scheme of things, it's a 2-for-4 trade, so overall it's still pretty good. And I also picked up 2 other kills from there. So here, just shoving Blitzcrank away. And I now have double buff, so I am actually pretty strong. I don't really need to back for anything. I have the Noon Quiver in my pocket as well as my Gluttonous Greaves, so I'm kind of just sticking around in lane and just farming out the minions, trying to clear out the minions so that we have a little bit of lane priority. At the same time removing Tristana's bone plating. I saw Blitzcrank there briefly because of the minions, so I know not to walk too close to that wall because I'm gonna get hooked over if I do. So here a dragon fight is ensuing where my team is actually doing the dragon. I'm of course hugging this wall to make my way down. And here Nami hits a huge wave into bubble, which allows me to actually free fire onto the Tristana and pick up the kill onto her. And then I'm moving on to the Blitzcrank, who is at, really critical HP now. I flash the wall, grab the kill onto him, and now I'm headed back with the ulti. And another nice bubble. I condemn the Asol into the wall. He gets stunned, he dies, and now we're chasing down Shyvana. She dies as well. And out of nowhere, I just rack up a whole bunch of kills. And obviously now we're super duper accelerated. Now Vayne is one of the most scary champions to give kills in the early game too. Now it's in the same category as, Fed Vayne is like same as having like a Fed Kale, a Fed Vlad, in the early game, where basically these are late game champions that have really weak early games. So if they somehow get fed in the early game, like what just happened here, I wouldn't say the game is unwinnable, but you know that your team is in a horrible spot if the enemy has like a super fed Vayne in the early game or something like that. So I'm in a really, really beautiful spot. I have so much more gold than anyone else in the game. And as long as I don't throw my lead and anything funny like that, this game should be fine. And this is gonna be one of those very fun Vayne games where if you get fed early and you don't throw, you're gonna have a lot of fun because you're gonna be so hard to kill because of all of your lifesteal and stuff, and you're gonna be able to kill people, not say easily, but yeah. So speaking of throw, here we overcommit to the Tristana, and Blitzcrank and Shyvana comes in for the punish, and we do end up dying, which was pretty silly. There's no reason to overcommit onto the Tristana that badly, but we did so anyway, and because of that we are punished and we die, deservedly so. So of course from this point on, especially because we've just given our shutdown, honestly there's two ways to think about it. The first way to think about it is we've just given our shutdown, so we can't afford to play more aggressively. But the way I prefer to think about it is that death is a wake-up call, a slap to the face, and it's kind of reminding you that you can't really play that aggressive. And Vladimir is now getting a bunch of kills as well. Now I've respawned and gone to the mid lane to help out my team to clear it out. Since Vlad rotated to top, I'm kind of helping him to clear the mid wave while he's at top, clearing the top wave. This is really based on the concept of maximizing farm. You don't want to run straight to top lane if your mid laner is there, because then you and your mid laner will have to share farm. Meanwhile, in mid lane, no one is picking up the farm and is getting wasted. So since he has gone to top, I'm going to mid to pick up the farm. So here initially I was thinking of staying mid with Nami, because obviously ADC and support mid is actually very optimal because you're easily able to rotate to anywhere. Speaking of which, we spot Shyvana just super duper overextended and committing to the tower for no good reason, especially considering that she can't see any of us on the map. So we essentially just run her down, ensuring to condemn her away so Tryndamere can't get the KS. So yeah, we just come down here, pick up a relatively free and easy kill. We're gonna pick up the bot lane tower while we're at it as well. And yeah, so it's a pretty nice situation. Also, we spot the red buff share is up, so we're gonna just head over to there to grab the red buff itself. And honestly, at this point, we have our shield bow up, and it is indeed available in a sense that the shield is ready to be procced. So here, Tristana and Blitzcrank try to get a sneaky rotation, but they run into a ward. So here I'm focusing the Tristana. I get stunned by Asol, pushed back by Tristana, but I'm gonna flash, pick up the kill onto Tristana, heal off of the Skull Crab, and here I'm getting like pulled in by the Aurelion Soul but I managed to get a double kill. I'm chasing down Blitzcrank. I thought the Condemn would kill him, but it did not. So instead I'm gonna kill off the Aurelion Soul for the triple, and Blitzcrank is able to escape with his life. Interestingly enough, Fiora here has gone for Heartsteel instead of going for like Triforce or Divine Sunderer, which is kind of strange because she's losing out on a lot of damage by not going for Sheen item first. Or yeah, she does have Sheen now, but that was a really weird choice. I don't really think Fiora is a Heartsteel champion. Anyways, here we don't want to overstay, so we're just going to go ahead and back off after securing all that we have. So here I sense the Blitzcrank. Honestly, this was just a sixth sense kind of thing. I sensed the Blitzcrank might try to hook there, so I decided to move, and it turned out that it was a really good idea that I did. If not, I would have gotten caught there and given over another shutdown, which would not have been very optimal. So here a huge wave has accumulated at the bot lane, so I'm gonna go ahead and quickly respond to this and grab the minions. Remember that these like 2 full minion waves is almost worth a kill. Because obviously each minion is worth like 60 gold, or 60 to 65 gold, and honestly actually it's worth more than a kill. The whole 2 waves is worth more than a kill, so you don't want to lose those waves to tower. So we run over, grab the wave, and now we can rotate back to mid where we are needed with our team here. I get a catch onto Aurelion Sol, but obviously his team is there. I'm just getting a chunk, and I managed to actually bait out Shyvana ulti, and I say bait out because I was initially intending to retreat, but she overextends a lot, and I'm going to get a free kill onto her. I get exhausted, but again, it doesn't matter. Now I'm stuck in a duel with Fiora. My shield bow pops, which blocks majority of the damage, and I'm able to get the kill onto Fiora. Now I'm free firing onto the rest of their team. Triple kill comes in, quadra kill comes in as well, and I'm not sure who the last member was. Oh, it was actually Asol that died to Vladimir. So no Penta, unfortunately, but you know, we still wipe them with a clean ace, and we destroy the turret. In the meantime, the Tryndamere is picking up the dragon, and we are just pushing the mid lane tower now. Enemy team is about to spawn, so I don't know if this is a very good idea to go for the mid lane tower. Yeah, Shyvana comes in with the flash apparently, but yeah, so we're just gonna back off. Aurelion Sol apparently trying to chase. Now I was actually looking to turn. Here Tryndamere comes in at a very weird angle, gets completely chunked out, looks like he's just about to get popped, and does die. You know, doesn't have ult, not quite sure what he's doing here. Now here we should be backing off because we haven't spent our gold and bought items yet, so not a good idea to really stick around, especially when we can get items. So here I'm just pinging retreat, and I'm just recalling. Vladimir ends up going down as well. We pick up our Bloodthirster, and obviously at 3 items we're super duper strong. We're 11k gold, 2k gold higher than anyone in the enemy team. So we're in a really fit state, and of course we don't want to give over shutdown, and of course we want to be able to back and get our items, which we do at this point. So here I'm headed over to grab the red buff. I expect Tryndamere to come over to finish the buff, so I'm just kind of helping him to chunk it down. And I actually end up securing it because I do want to go over to contest Baron with the red buff. I go legendary, I flash the wall, and I'm going in just 1v9 mode, trying to you know, get the Baron. With the red buff, I actually picked up the kill on Tristana, so really important there that I picked up the red buff. Otherwise, you know, I wouldn't even have gotten her. So here, I'm not in a 1v1 versus Fiora, but with my mobility on my tumble, I'm able to kind of kite around her, and Tryndamere does come over to pick up the KS. And here we're just gonna push down this tower. So overall the enemy team did get Baron, but we sort of mitigated the impact of the Baron by killing 4 of them, so they don't actually really gain anything from the Baron as of now. Of course the Baron buff is still going to be on them when they revive, but you know, they're not going to get as much as they could have gotten if, you know, we didn't kill them. Now here we're 1v1ing Aurelion Sol. Obviously we outdamage Aurelion Sol, and we lifesteal a lot as well. Here we aggro the wolves to let them block the Blitzcrank hook for us, and on our way out we also pick up the large wolf. Of course, we're also going to get the enemy Gromp on the way out with the counter jungling to basically starve the enemy of resources. Shield Bow is, of course, on cooldown, so we do want to be a little bit cautious here and don't want to, you know, make any overly aggressive play. Of course, I didn't mention this in the rune section, but instead of bone plating, you could also go for Ingenious Hunter, I believe it's called, the one that lowers the gives you item haste, because obviously Shield Bow with item haste really helpful. Here we're going to basically just one-shot the Tristana, now into the Shyvana and into the Asol, and now we're chasing down the Fiora, who has really nowhere to run, especially with the Vayne ult pop. She tries to recall, we condemn her into the wall, finish off the quadra kill onto her, and only Blitzcrank is left. But of course Blitzcrank is a really tanky chap, especially because he has Fimbulwinter and he also has Warmogs. So he has a ton of max health, really difficult to kill. Of course, with Penta on the line, we gotta at least kind of try to take him out, but of course the timer is running down, and I think it's pretty unlikely to really get a Penta in this situation. So we're gonna focus the tower, but we see him walk up, so we're trying to focus him, and I realize that there's no way I'm killing him, because like it's gonna take a lot of attacks to kill him. Here I pop the ulti, and I'm actually free firing onto them while you know, trying to kite them out. I actually get the Asol, I get exhausted, but again Vayne with exhaust doesn't actually matter. I try to finish off the Tristana, but she goes golden, so I'm gonna run away, and I'm kiting out Fiora. I am able to get the Fiora eventually. Blitzcrank knocks me up, and Shyvana tries to run in, but again I barely survive with like 1 HP, and yeah, it's just a disaster for the enemy team at this point. And now I'm going to lifesteal off of the minions. Notice I'm focusing the minions instead of the tower because I need the health, and now that I have the health, I'm going to focus the tower. And Blitzcrank tries to hook me, but we just tumble away. And we're able to finish the game here. Of course, Blitzcrank again is the only one alive. I'm trying to finish off the Blitzcrank before we finish the game, just for the fun of it, and we do get the dub right here. So I'm gonna leave you guys with the stats as usual. Thank you guys so much for watching, and goodbye.